Ida is a loser who doesn't believe in love and wants to live a peaceful life. However, everything changes when the most popular girl blackmails him into being her fake boyfriend, but they slowly start to fall for each other. Everything starts when Masuzu walks into class. All the guys and their sticks stand still because of how hot she is, but Ida is the only exception because he doesn't care about her existence. A while later, the teacher walks in and tells everyone that they'll be changing seats because it's a new semester. Since Ida topped the last exams, he gets stuck in the back row, but he likes it because it's comfy. However, all the guys start freaking out when Masuzu is assigned to be his seatmate because they wish they could switch places with Ida.
It should have been me, not him!
After that, Masuzu politely greets Ida, and once he replies, he just goes back to reading, and it pisses all the jealous guys off. By evening, Ida shares dinner with Chiwa, his childhood bestie, and blurts out that he's now seatmates with Masuzu. When Chiwa freaks out, Ida tells her that nothing will happen between him and Masuzu, and he's sure of it. However, a few days later, Masuzu shows up in class and suddenly asks Ida to walk her home after school. Ida immediately assumes that she's leading him into a big trap to embarrass him, but Masuzu claims she only wants him to walk her home because she likes him. When Ida refuses to believe her, Masuzu tries to prove her feelings by telling him how much she wants him to cream her cake. But when the whole class freaks out, Ida agrees to walk her home so she doesn't make things worse. The moment they cover a good distance from the school, Ida backs away from Masuzu and tells her to come clean about her intentions. At first, Masuzu plays dumb and claims it took a lot of courage to confess her feelings in public, but when she sees that Ida isn't buying it, she drops the act. Suddenly, the wind blows and her skirt takes some damage, allowing Ida to see her holy garden by accident.
Yeah, boy.
While Ida freaks out, Masuzu acts nonchalant about it and only wants to get down to business. She reveals that she's received dozens of confessions from guys and has grown tired of it, but Ida can't see the problem and suggests she date the best guy on her waiting list. However, Masuzu insists she can't reduce herself to dating someone because she finds love disgusting and doesn't want to be a part of it. She then tells Ida she wants him to be her fake boyfriend because she already knows he's anti-love like her, but bro refuses because of all the pressure that might come with it. When Masuzu figures he isn't changing his mind, she insists she pulls out a diary from her bag and starts reading some entries. It takes a while before Ida realizes she's reading his sus diary, which she claims she found inside an encyclopedia textbook at a store. Ida then recalls that he hid his diary in that textbook, but forgot to take it out before selling it. When he tries to snatch his diary from her, she doesn't let him but uses it as leverage to force him to accept being her fake boyfriend. As they lock hands to walk home, Chiwa chases after them and questions why they're acting like a married couple. Hearing this makes Masuzu wonder what rock Chiwa crawled out of, so Chiwa yells that she's Ida's old friend. She then lashes out at Ida, asking why he didn't tell her he's gotten a girlfriend, and it makes Masuzu wonder if she needs her permission to be with Ida. Chiwa says yes, boasting that even Megan Fox would need her approval to date Ida, because she's been with him the longest. However, Masuzu tells her the only thing long about her is the time it'll take for her to get thick.
Damn!
After that, she smiles and formally declares that she's dating Ida, then asks Chiwa to bless her relationship. Chiwa becomes speechless after the display and watches in pain as Masuzu walks away with Ida. So the following day, she takes out her anger by practicing kendo, and Ida grows worried about her because she has an internal injury. Chiwa argues that the doctor only told her not to compete in any kendo matches, so she's free to do whatever she wants. When she's done practicing, she tells Ida she'll get herself a cool boyfriend and become the most popular girl in school, but Ida doesn't give two forks. At school, Ida talks to Kaoru, who is a bit stunned that Ida now has a girlfriend, because he was the same dude who always went on about being anti-love. Ida claims he's shocked too, but he hates that he's starting to catch flack from other guys because he's dating the girl of their wet dreams. Out of curiosity, Kaoru brings up Chiwa and asks what's up with her, because he's noticed that she's trying too hard to sound cute. Ida smiles because he already knows why Chiwa is acting like that, so Kaoru advises him to sort things out with her first before he deepens his relationship with Masuzu. After school, Ida walks home with Masuzu and thinks about telling Chiwa the truth about his fake relationship, because he feels responsible for her odd behavior. But before he can ask Masuzu for permission, she already figures out what he wants to say and insists on keeping the truth a secret. Deep down, she already knows that Chiwa is acting strangely because she wants to become popular, so she tells Ida to schedule a meeting with Chiwa tomorrow so they can work something out. The following day, Ida drags Chiwa to meet Masuzu at school, where Masuzu officially invites her to join her club. She points out Chiwa's issues with fame and brags that she's an expert in getting boys' attention.
What do you mean by that?
claiming that Ada's diary is what helped her. Though she doesn't mention that it's Ada's diary, the poor lad freaks out and tries to snatch it. But Chiwa pulls him back since she's interested in what Masuzu is saying. Masuzu claims the book contains everything Chiwa would need to attract boys and fakes sympathy for Chiwa to make her consider joining her club. Though Chiwa is convinced to take her offer, she feels skeptical about it because she isn't getting anything in return. So Masuzu casually chips in that she'll be alone with Ida behind closed doors if Chiwa doesn't join the club. Hearing this hits a nerve because Chiwa doesn't want Ida to become a father by the end of the semester, so she agrees to join the club. Later that evening, Chiwa snacks on Ida's seasoned meat, bragging that she'll learn from Masuzu and get more famous than her. So the following day, she meets Masuzu to get lessons on how she'd attract a guy. First, Masuzu mentions having a set target, so Ada chips in and asks Chiwa if she has anyone in mind. Chiwa claims she doesn't, but then mentions a certain guy named Sakagami from the school's basketball team. Apparently, he's the man of every girl's desire because he's lengthy in the right places. But Masuzu doesn't feel he's the best target. When Ada asks why, she gives it a second thought and changes her mind, adding that Sakagami's younger brother is in their class, and it'll be easier to get his attention. As for how Chiwa will get Sakagami's attention, she brings out Ida's diary and starts reading out a diabolical entry concerning guitars. Ida sweats bullets while she reads it, because he never expected his entries to sound like that, but he snaps out of it when Masuzu tells Chiwa to fake being a guitarist. Masuzu believes that people who play guitars tend to attract attention, but when Chiwa points out that she can't even play a piece, Masuzu gives her an empty gig bag and tells her to walk around with it at all times. She also adds that she should be rude to anyone who tries to touch it, and learn about popular music pieces, so it'll sell the vibe that she's a guitarist. A few hours later, Ada sits in class panicking as he watches the door because Sakagami's brother is still around, and he's expecting Chiwa to show up. Eventually, Chiwa arrives with her big black gig bag, so he casually asks if she's got a gig today. Before Chiwa can say yes, some girls approach her and ask if she's in a band, so she denies it and lies that she plays solo every once in a while. She manages to sell the fake guitarist act for about 5 minutes and starts fumbling because she doesn't know popular bands. By now, Ida is inches away from wetting his pants because he doesn't think Chiwa can handle it. Meanwhile, Masuzu starts smiling like she planned things to go sideways. Soon, the girls ask Chiwa to play a piece for them, but as she declines, Sakagami's brother shows up and insists she play one. Seeing him up close makes Chiwa's heart start to race, but she sucks it up and fumbles a rockstar-themed display to deceive everyone. After she's done losing 10 million aura points, she flashes the peace sign and runs off in shame. While Masuzu giggles hard because she can't hold back laughing at Chiwa's stupidity. A while later, Ada meets Chiwa and yells at her for swinging her gig bag so fast because it can trigger her injury, so she apologizes for going that far. Out of curiosity, Chiwa asks Masuzu what made her get interested in Ida, so the degenerate chick says it's because Ada saw beyond her skirt.
What?
As Ada tries to explain himself, he catches a beating and is forced to watch as Masuzu advises Chiwa to flash her plots to attract guys. While Chiwa insists she isn't a hoe, Masuzu flashes her plot armor for Ada, and it makes him lose a good amount.
Yeah, boy.
Chiwa gets pissed and heads to the bathroom when she notices Ada locking eyes with Masuzu, but in her absence, Masuzu grows jealous and asks Ada why he's roped with Chiwa. Ida says it's because she's his old friend, and that even though the classroom act didn't end well, Chiwa wouldn't quit the club. He narrates that she used to be the best kendo student, but lost everything when she got injured. Now she's found something she can pour her heart into, which is why she won't quit the club. Masuzu feels relieved after hearing this, but crawls up to Ida, telling him not to forget that he's her boyfriend, and that he shouldn't pay attention to any other girl when she's around. The following day, during a club meeting between Masuzu, Ida, and Chiwa, Masuzu suggests they fight against something, claiming it's a step toward becoming popular. When Ada asks who they'll have to fight, Masuzu mocks him for being as smart as a brick, and then pulls out his diary to read an entry. She reads from a part where Ada claimed he was an ranked dragon in his previous life, and how he was defeated and reincarnated into this reality. While she reads it out loud, Ada crashes out because he feels embarrassed, but Masuzu ignores him and keeps reading until he passes out.
Leave me alone!
Once Masuzu is done reading, she tells Ada and Chiwa that they'll just have to pretend to fight to gain their classmates' attention. She then offers to write a script and tells Chiwa that she'll act it out, with Ada being a supporting character. About 3 days later, Ida's heart races as he sits waiting for Chiwa to show up for their little act. The moment Chiwa barges in, she begins acting like a fantasy maiden in distress, and Ada acts accordingly, leaving everyone in class focused on them. After they are done losing aura points, silence consumes the class for about 5 minutes. Then everyone starts clapping for their performance, including Sakagami, who seems interested in Masuzu's script. Afterwards, Masuzu tells Chiwa that it's time for her to make a move on Sakagami and ask him out. She believes that with Chiwa's recent act, Sakagami's love points have increased, and she's sure he's thinking about Chiwa. At first, Chiwa seems skeptical about making the move, but when she gives it a second thought, she realizes she has nothing to lose except getting rejected, so she agrees to ask Sakagami out. As for how she'll do it, Masuzu suggests she drop a letter for Sakagami in his locker, and Chiwa agrees. Later, while Ada is out shopping for supplies, he asks Chiwa one more time to confirm if she's really in on asking Sakagami out, and she admits it. After that, Ada wishes her luck and promises to celebrate with her when she scores Sakagami, but he doesn't notice that Chiwa isn't 100% cool with dating him. The following day, Chiwa drops a love letter in Sakagami's locker as planned and waits for him to come see her at a spot. While she waits, Masuzu and Ida watch closely, and they're both shocked when Sakagami shows up. Sakagami cuts to the chase and tells Chiwa that she's cute, then proceeds to ask her out on a movie date on Sunday. After Chiwa agrees, she walks home with Ida and Masuzu and gets complimented for scoring her first guy. Masuzu attributes her success to the trash she read from Ida's diary, which makes Chiwa remark that the person behind the book is amazing. Ida is shocked as he hears this because he doesn't find anything interesting about his diary, but Chiwa insists it's cool because she thinks the diary's author believed in all his fantasies without fear. After that, Chiwa thanks Masuzu for all the help, and although she fakes a smile, Masuzu notices she isn't happy. When Masuzu comments on this, Chiwa laughs, claiming that she's fine, but Masuzu realizes there's more to it and chooses to stay quiet. Later that day, Ada invites Chiwa to his house to share dinner and celebrate her victory as he promised, but when Chiwa shows up, she wonders why they're celebrating. She then asks Ada if he's okay with her being with someone else, and the question shocks Ada because the highlight of the past week was about getting her a boyfriend to make her popular. When he mentions that she's gotten what she wanted, she yells at him and starts crying because she doesn't want to be with Sakagami. The fact that Ada has no clue why she's sad makes her wish they weren't friends. When she mentions that their friendship sucks, Ida snaps and wonders what's up with her, and ends up stressing that she's been like a sister to him since they've known each other. Chiwa cries out loud as she hears this, because she hates that Ada only sees her as family. When Ada tries to console her, she smacks his hand away and runs out of the house. Sometime in the past, around the time Chiwa got her injury, Ida was surprised to see her in his house because she was supposed to be at the hospital. Chiwa replied that she had to come home and practice walking, so Ada helped with her crutches and invited her in. While they talked, Chiwa mentioned that her leg injury would be healed by next week, and she would be able to walk normally by then. Ida was excited to hear this and hinted at her starting her kendo practice again, but she broke it to him that the doctor advised her to quit because her injury would get worse. Ida felt sad after hearing this and thought the doctor treating her was dumb, but was stunned when Chiwa told him her doctor was the best in the city. Chiwa told him she was cool with everything and asked about his own plans. That was when he told Chiwa about his parents, who had recently abandoned him because they had cheated on each other and gotten a divorce. He also told Chiwa that he had an aunt who might look after him, because his other relatives didn't want to take him in. When Chiwa found out he would be staying alone, she became excited and begged him to remain with her, and he agreed without thinking twice. Over dinner, they talked about their plans for the future, or Chiwa mentioned that she'd find something other than kendo that would interest her. Ida told her to go for it, but figured he'd keep living a boring life because he wasn't smart or athletic. However, when he gave it a second thought, he mentioned that he'd get smarter, become a doctor, and fix Chiwa's leg. Hearing this made Chiwa shed tears, and when he realized it was because of what he said, he promised to up his grades and become the top student in school so he could become a doctor and save her. This made Chiwa smile, and she cheered up, promising to wait for Ada no matter how long it would take. Presently, Ada recalls this and realizes he was stupid for making such a big promise. Coincidentally, Masuzu reads an entry in his diary concerning the promise and agrees that he was stupid. The following morning, Ida wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, wondering why Chiwa overreacted the way she did yesterday. When it dawns on him that it's already past 9, he realizes he's late and rushes out of the house. He darts into the city and is shocked when Masuzu pulls up on him, because just like him, she's there to see how things will play out with Chiwa's date. After that, she locks hands with him like normal couples do, but he starts complaining about it, so she tells him he must act like her boyfriend at all times. She then makes him feel her plots to show seriousness, and Ada realizes that his semester isn't the only thing bound to get long and hard. After some time, they both see Chiwa from a distance, and Ada remarks that she looks cute in her outfit. As Masuzu hears this, she takes credit for picking the dress but throws shade at Chiwa for giving her a dress she used ages ago. About half an hour later, Ada starts losing it because Sakagami is late for his date with Chiwa, and he wishes Chiwa would call it quits already. Another 20 minutes go by, and she's still standing there waiting for Sakagami to show up, but he doesn't. Soon, Ada sees Sakagami laughing with his friends, and it turns out he struck a deal with someone that Chiwa would wait for him, even if he was late. Once Sakagami meets Chiwa, he asks why she was foolish enough to wait for him, and his side chicks question why she's trying to look like a baddie when she obviously doesn't have the stomach for it. As they all make fun of Chiwa, Ada grows pissed, and that's when Masuzu tells him the truth about Sakagami. Apparently, she knew from the beginning that he was a bad person who acted nice in school and shuffled between 2 to 3 chicks at a time. Ida almost lashes out at Masuzu for allowing Chiwa to pick Sakagami when she knew the kind of person he was, and he decides to intervene. However, Masuzu stops him and insists that Chiwa face the humiliation so she can understand that love is overrated and become like them. Hearing this, Ida yells at Masuzu to stop acting twisted, because even if they're the same, it isn't right to force their mindset on someone innocent. By now, Masuzu sees sense in what he's saying and begins to feel bad about everything, so she begs Ida not to abandon her. To her shock, the once pissed Ida gives her a gentle head pat and promises to make her cream gallons when he gets back. He then charges off like a hero to save the day and starts seeing himself as the fantasy character he imagines himself to be in his diary. Once he confronts Sakagami's group, he announces himself as an ranked dragon and swears to unleash his powers on them if they keep bullying Chiwa. His display shocks Sakagami's group as they wonder if he's okay upstairs, but when they notice other people staring, they decide to leave. On their way, Ida attacks them from behind and insists that Sakagami apologize to Chiwa for leading her on, but he ends up being beaten until he coughs out blood. Despite that, he gets up and yells that his girl is watching him and he won't quit, and it makes Chiwa assume he's referring to her. While Ada takes another beating, Chiwa calls one of Sakagami's friends a creep, so the guy charges at her to teach her a lesson. On the way, someone throws a stick to Chiwa, so she picks it up and holds it like her kendo sword. She then knocks the first guy out and calmly counters the big guy who charges at her next. After taking him out, she faces Sakagami and gives him a whopping, then bows and apologizes for lying to him. She reveals that she never liked him and that she only chose him because she got into a stupid fight with her annoying bestie. She then begs Sakagami to pretend like today didn't happen, so the guy agrees and walks away with his bruised pencil and ego. In his absence, Chiwa tends to Ida, who she commends for standing up for her. She then brings up the time when he yelled about a girl watching him and asks if Masuzu is with him. When Ada says he's alone, Chiwa becomes sure he was referring to her when he yelled earlier, but she doesn't know Masuzu was watching the whole thing. The following day, Ida becomes popular in school because of what he did to Sakagami yesterday. Apparently, the basketball star has been exposed for his ill conduct, and Kaoru remarks that Chiwa will be happy. However, when he notices that Masuzu isn't in class, he figures she's upset because Ada left her and went on to be another girl's knight in shining armor. So after school, Ida heads out looking for Masuzu's apartment and is shocked when she hugs him from the back. He's freaked out because she looks fine, and he was under the impression she was pissed at him, but Masuzu says she's okay. Thinking back, Ida realizes she's the one who threw the stick for Chiwa yesterday and thanks her for it, but Masuzu claims she just did what any normal girlfriend would do. While they stroll, Ada asks Masuzu if she'll keep running their club, and she admits she will because there's Chiwa, who wants to get popular. Ada decides he's cool with it and offers to hang around until Chiwa returns to normal. As he mentions Chiwa, Masuzu calls him out for knowing almost everything about her, but Ada claims it's because they're old friends. As a result, Masuzu walks up to him, gives him a long French kiss, and then smiles because she's sure he hasn't kissed Chiwa. Meanwhile, all the culture built up in Ida's pants begins to rise, and he takes deep breaths to calm himself down. About 2 seconds later, Masuzu asks if he enjoyed the kiss, but he fumbles and asks if she's okay with kissing him since he's her fake boyfriend. However, Masuzu shocks him when she claims that the kiss was a parody from a movie she recently watched, and there's nothing more to it. Now that she's gotten what she wanted, she tells him to wash all of her juice from his lips, and he freaks out. The following day, Ada asks what she's doing there, and Chiwa claims she told him her shower was bad and she would be using his today. Since he walked and saw her like that, she tells him to make it up to her by walking her to school, and he agrees. However, when he walks to the kitchen to get something, Ada freaks out, wondering why she's there, but she tells him she needs to cook him breakfast as his girlfriend. She then assumes Ida would like her to be dressed only in her apron, so she unalives her skirt to grant Ida easy access. But before they can clap, Chiwa yells for help, and Ida is forced to lie that it's his aunt, because he doesn't want both girls to know they're in his house. After running to and fro for about 5 years, he gets caught and realizes that having one wife is always the best option. The following week, Ida shows up to school and is shocked when he finds a love letter from a girl in his locker. He then confides in Kaoru and asks him to explain the intent behind the letter. So Kaoru tells him it might be from a girl who likes him and wants to date him. He brings up Chiwa as his prime suspect because she's the only one who's bent on getting with him. With this in mind, Ida joins Chiwa at the club and studies her behavior to know if she's his secret lover. When Chiwa catches him staring, she asks what's up with him, and he denies watching her. Chiwa then asks about Masuzu, and when Ida tells her Masuzu is busy with something else, she becomes excited because she gets to have private time with Ida. Immediately, she sits close to Ida and rests on his body, and it makes Ida even more sure she's the one behind the letter. Suddenly, Masuzu shows up and slams Chiwa's head on her food, claiming she did it on reflex because Chiwa looks like a man thief. When Chiwa recovers, she lashes out at Masuzu for slamming her head like that. But Masuzu shuts her up by reminding her that she was trying to act lovey-dovey with her boyfriend. Thinking back, Chiwa argues that she was flirting with Ida because she was practicing what she'll do when she finally gets a boyfriend. Masuzu replies that she'll need to read the whole of a certain plotful book before she can get popular. But since their club isn't recognized by the student council, they have no funds to get the full set of the plotful book. Masuzu decides that if they don't want their club shut down, they'll have to deal with the hall monitors, the powerful arm of the student council standing in their way. While they're all thinking about what to do, Chiwa brings up the idea of recruiting more members to avoid getting closed down. Masuzu agrees, though she's honestly surprised because she didn't expect actual brain activity from Chiwa today. Afterwards, Masuzu suggests creating a theme song for their club, and Chiwa volunteers to do it, though she ends up singing something about love. Since Masuzu is anti-love, she cuts Chiwa off and sings a bizarre piece from Ida's diary, making the poor lad crash out. Later that afternoon, Ida heads to his locker and is shocked when he sees another letter from his secret admirer, telling him to remember her feelings for him. This time, Masuzu watches him reading it, but he hides it so she doesn't find out what's up. After school, Masuzu walks home with Ida and acts all lovey-dovey with him like nothing's happened. At a spot, she asked if he's hiding something from her, because she noticed he was watching Chiwa closely in the clubroom. Ida claims it isn't like that, but Masuzu reminds him not to give another girl attention when she's around. She then threatens to expose page 69 of his diary if he doesn't spill the beans, but Ida insists on staying shut. This gives Masuzu the impression that he really cares about Chiwa, but before she can attack him for it, some chick named Mana pulls up and calls her attention. Apparently, she's Masuzu's annoying little sister and was sent by their father, who is upset that she's dating some guy in her school. While teasing Masuzu, Mana promises to talk to their father so he won't get angry with Masuzu. Hearing this makes Masuzu tremble in fear, and when Ida notices, he wonders what's going on. Before Mana leaves, she tells Masuzu she'd like to have Ida to herself in exchange for talking to their father. She then kisses Ida and exits the park, leaving Masuzu in utter shock. In Mana's absence, Ida asks Masuzu why she's shaking, but Masuzu yells at him to stop asking her questions because he's keeping secrets too. The following day, Ida notices that Masuzu is checked out in class. During swimming practice, Masuzu refuses to enter the pool, but after Ida sweet-talks her into doing it, she walks right in. On the way, all the guys get excited because they might get to fondle Milker's softer than the Rock's biceps after his recent transformation. But 5 seconds after Masuzu enters the pool, she struggles to swim and ends up drowning. After her unconscious body is pulled out, Ida notices she isn't responding to him and summons the courage to give her a mouth-to-mouth to revive her. Around sunset, Masuzu wakes up in the nurse's office to find Ida sitting beside her. She immediately starts mocking herself for almost drowning, then apologizes to him for the way she acted earlier. She also admits she was upset because Mana kissed him right in front of her yesterday, and she didn't expect to feel jealous, since she always thought kissing was just something two love-drunk fools do. Ida is shocked because he was under the impression that Masuzu was mad at him for digging into her secrets. Realizing he was wrong, he tells her not to worry about Mana's kiss because he's already overwritten it. Masuzu freezes at the word until she remembers the mouth-to-mouth he gave her to revive her, and her face turns bright red right after. That evening, while Chiwa is getting ready to head home, she gets a text from someone saying that Ida gave Masuzu a kiss. This pisses her off, and it makes her not think twice about running home under the rain. The following day, she gets sick and her mother begs Ida to take care of her. While she heads off to work, Ida agrees to help, but is a bit flustered when Chiwa asks him to give her a sponge bath. When he's done, he notices a pair of chopsticks she took from his house back when he made the promise to her about becoming a doctor to treat her lay. Chiwa says the chopsticks mean a lot to her because they're a sign of their connection. And that's when it hits Ida that she isn't the one behind the letters, because they already have a connection and there's nothing they need to restore. As Chiwa falls asleep, she murmurs that she wants a mouth-to-mouth from Ida and that she wants him to stay with her forever. The following day, she starts feeling better and forces Ada to walk her to school. But at school, he finds another love letter from his secret admirer, and Chiwa notices. He claims it's nothing and then hides to read the letter and realizes that his secret admirer wants to meet. So after school, he heads to a certain spot and finds a cute girl named Himei waiting for him, and is stunned when she tells him she loves him. Curious, Ida asks if they've met before because he doesn't recall sharing any connection with her. So she remarks that all the memories of his past life haven't returned. She introduces herself as Ada's princess from his fantasy world, and it shocks the dude because his fantasy world only exists in his diary. As she hugs him, he backs away and asks how she knows about his fantasies. So she tells him it's because of his display at the park when he tried to save Chiwa a few weeks ago. She then hugs him again, and that's when Chiwa and Masuzu show up. Chiwa immediately asks who Himei is, so Ada tells Himei not to mention anything about being his lover from a past life. However, when Chiwa demands that she introduce herself, she mentions that she's Ida's ex, leaving everyone completely shocked. Masuzu starts twitching because it means someone has been calling Ida daddy before her, while Himei starts acting clingy with Ida when she realizes that both girls are after him. The following day, Ida opens up to Kaoru about what happened, and it makes him wonder what it is that Himei likes about Ada. After their conversation, Ida thinks about Himei's motive, but snaps out of it when he finds Himei in his clubroom. Himei is excited to see him, so she hugs him, but Ada isn't exactly pleased because it's Masuzu who invited her over. In Masuzu's defense, she claims that as his girlfriend, she's obligated to find out things about his ex, and thanks to that, she knows about Himei's weird fantasies of being Ida's princess. She also considers inviting Himei to join their club, but Chiwa storms in and rejects it because she feels Himei is only out to get Ida for herself. Himei confirms this and says she wants nothing to do with fame, but Masuzu insists she'll do well if she learns how to attract guys. To get her interested, she starts reading an entry from Ida's diary about how he had 4 banging baddies who couldn't love him enough. While she reads it, Ida crashes out, and Himei gets more interested in becoming a girl of Ida's wild thoughts. Sensing this, Masuzu gives Himei a book and tells her to describe the type of maiden she'd like to become in the form of a poem. Chiwa claims it's too easy and suggests they act out some kind of play in the hall where they'll all act cute when they bump into Ida. At the start, Masuzu and Chiwa acted out correctly, but when it reaches Himei's turn, she faints from food poisoning and the hall monitors show up. About an hour later, Himei regains consciousness and finds Ada sitting beside her. She then asks about Chiwa and Masuzu and learns that the hall monitors took them away. Now that they're alone, Ada asks why she's dead set on him, because he doesn't feel the need for them to be together, even though he's her boyfriend in her fantasy world. Himei replies that she held a faint hope before she showed up at this school that it would be a new experience for her, but when she came here, it was all the same. However, everything changed when she saw Ada fighting to save Chiwa from Sakagami, because his presence gave color to her gray world. She adds that she's found him cool since then, but Ida counters and says that he outgrew his weird fantasies years ago. To him, it isn't cool anymore, and even as he insists on it, Himei holds his hands and tells him to believe in himself and be more confident about his fantasies. On Saturday, Ida, Chiwa, and Masuzu find themselves cleaning up the school's pool as punishment from the hall monitors. Masuzu swears to get back at the hall monitors. Meanwhile, Ida is having a field day staring at her wet plots. At some point, Mana shows up with her bodyguard and demands Masuzu's attention. First, she teases Chiwa for being cute, but Masuzu gets fed up and tells her to cut to it. Mana says she came to apologize because she couldn't convince her father to be cool with Masuzu staying in her school. She smiles and tells Masuzu that her father wants her back home and that he's threatened to drag her out of her apartment if she refuses. This pisses Masuzu off as she yells that she doesn't want her father anywhere near her apartment, but when she realizes she has no choice, she decides she'll quit school and join Mana back home. Her decision pisses Chiwa off, and she gets more upset when she learns that Mana is Masuzu's younger sister. Out of curiosity, Ada asks Masuzu where home is, and she mentions Sweden, adding that she will never come back to Japan again. She then tells Ada she doesn't like him anymore and breaks up with him on the spot, telling Chiwa that she can have him. Though Chiwa likes the idea of being with Ida, she hates that Masuzu is giving up so easily and runs after her to talk some sense into her. In her absence, Himei shows up with a completed poem assignment about the girl she'd like to be, and insists that Ada read it so she'll be allowed to join his club, along with their punishment. Before Ada can read the poem, Mana snatches it away and starts mocking Himei's desire to be a good girl princess. She laughs out loud and calls Himei lame, which makes the poor girl cry. As Ada sees this, he gets pissed and forcefully tries to take the poem from Mana, but her bodyguard stops him. Despite that, he yells at Mana to stop laughing at people's fantasies, and even reveals that he's got insane fantasies himself. He then tells Mana to apologize to Himei, and that's when Masuzu shows up and tells Mana to stop harassing Ada with her guard. As Ada recovers, he walks over to Himei and commends her for writing a cute poem, but tells her that the best way to express herself is to use words. By now, Mana gets fed up and tries to interrupt, but Ada tells her to zip it because he's attending to his club's business. This gets Mana upset, so she sends her guard after Ada, but this time, Himei takes a stand and tells him not to attack Ada. She screams that she finally found a place with Ada and doesn't want him to get hurt. Plus, she'd like to have a great club time with Masuzu and Chiwa. Hearing this flips a switch in Masuzu's mind, so she changes her mind about leaving school and gives Mana the middle finger. Before letting the little Karen go, Masuzu tells her to apologize to Himei, but Mana insists that she won't. However, when Masuzu reminds her that she's her older sister, Mana remembers her place and apologizes to Himei. After that, Masuzu tells her to tell their dad that she isn't going anywhere, but Mana yells that their mother will never come back and that Masuzu is bound to get hurt and cry if she remains in this school. She then drives off with her guard, and right after, Ada faints from exhaustion. When he recovers, Masuzu tells him it isn't smart to pick a fight against her family, but Ada says he doesn't give two spoons about it, because he didn't want his relationship with her to end just like that. After hearing this, Masuzu smiles and leans on his shoulder, but Chiwa and Himei ruin what could have happened next by barging into the room without knocking. Turns out, Himei has written an official application letter to join Ada's club, and as the club's president, Masuzu approves Himei's request, and everyone welcomes her to the club. The following week, Ada wakes up one day in school and is shocked to find himself in bed with Himei. As he wonders if she sucked him dry, he realizes something must have gone down because her clothes have taken damage. Himei tells him he was one Hakutua away from spewing his yogurt and mentions that they are destined to be together. But when Ada asks what happened, she keeps telling him it was her first time. This gives Ada the wrong impression, and his sausage chants arise the moment Himei hugs him with her exposed plots. But to his shock, Chiwa and Masuzu start banging on the door and threaten to break it down if someone doesn't open it, before Ada can wet his pants. Himei gets to the door and opens it for the girls. Masuzu walks in demanding an apology from Ada, but is shocked when she finds that only Himei is in the room. When she asks about Ada, Himei says she's alone, but Masuzu argues that she heard Ada making happy noises from the other class and came here to find him. Himei claims Masuzu's ears might be malfunctioning and lies that it was a gust of wind that caused the noise. Meanwhile, Ada is hiding behind a curtain and doesn't notice that Masuzu has already spotted him. As Masuzu ignores Himei and walks closer to the curtain, Ada starts shaking because he's cooked if she sees him, but Fuyumi from the student council walks in and questions what they're doing in the nurse's office. She slams Masuzu for carrying out her weird club activities and calls her a bad influence on Himei, because Himei used to be a model student before she joined the club, but now she's just a thirsty hoe craving Ada's sausage. After that, she tells Masuzu that her club is shut down and she should skedaddle and not come back. Her decision pisses Chiwa off, so she asks the girl why she's being rude to her. Chiwa smiles and assumes Fuyumi is jealous of their club because she and Himei are trying to get popular. Masuzu suspects the same thing and begins questioning Fuyumi, who blows off steam and claims she has a boyfriend named Michael from overseas. After she's done bragging, she asks about Ada, and Masuzu lies that he's gone home already. The question makes Chiwa wonder what Fuyumi might want with Ada, but Fuyumi gives her the middle finger and walks away. As days pass, Masuzu's club shutting down becomes official, summer vacation starts, and it excites Ada since he won't have to deal with Masuzu's drama. He starts summer classes to get better at school, but on his first day, he's shocked to find Fuyumi there. For some reason, Fuyumi asks to confirm if he's going to be consistent with classes the entire summer, and when he says yes, she becomes excited. However, she reverts to factory settings and acts rudely to Ada, so he doesn't get the impression that she likes him. Later on, Kaoru tells Ada he knows Fuyumi and reveals that they were in the same class in elementary school. He also finds it weird that Fuyumi is taking summer classes since it isn't her thing, but when he gives it a second thought, he gives off a suspicious smile. In the next period, Kaoru talks to Fuyumi, but when Fuyumi notices that Ada is looking her way, her cheeks turn red, though Ada doesn't read any meaning into it. That evening, while eating dinner with Chiwa, Ada mentions that Fuyumi is taking summer classes with him. This shocks Chiwa as she wonders how Fuyumi has time for school when she's supposed to have a boyfriend overseas. She then asks Ada if someone apart from Masuzu has asked him out before, and he says no initially, but corrects himself and says a girl asked him out in the past. Chiwa then asks him to see a fireworks display with her in a few days, but Ada insists that he wants to stay home and study, and it pisses her off. After the meal, Masuzu calls him and threatens to expose page 420 of his diary if he doesn't meet her at a park that evening. The message terrifies Ada, so he sprints all the way to the park and wonders why Masuzu is summoning him out of the blue. First, Masuzu tells Ada that he's been getting chummy with Fuyumi at summer school and wants him to dig up dirt on Fuyumi so she can get her club up and running again. She says Fuyumi's classmates have never heard about Michael, Fuyumi's supposed overseas boyfriend, and she thinks Fuyumi was lying about it, which is why she wants Ada to find evidence that Michael doesn't exist. So the following day, Ada sits in class wondering how he's supposed to pull that off, but snaps out of it during lunch break. Kaoru meets him and starts talking about how cool Fuyumi is, including the part where she's turned down all the guys thrusting after her. Hearing this makes Ada believe she really has a boyfriend, but he doesn't notice that Kaoru is trying to set him up with Fuyumi. When Kaoru notices Ada isn't showing interest, she runs off, drags Fuyumi to their table, and tries to make her start a conversation with him. At first, Fuyumi plays hard to get, but loosens up when Kaoru signals her to give something to Ada. Turns out she brought a home-cooked meal for him, and although it shocks Ada, he digs in and compliments how delicious it is. The compliment gets Fuyumi overly excited because she made the food herself, so she runs off to hide her embarrassment. In her absence, Kaoru keeps trying to be a wingman, but when Ada tells her Fuyumi has a boyfriend, Kaoru flips out because he didn't know about that. Later that day, Kaoru coerces Ada into having dinner with him and Fuyumi, so they stop by a restaurant on the way home. Here, Ada notices Fuyumi is still in her uniform and asks why she's wearing it during summer vacation. Fuyumi replies that it's because there's a school rule to wear the uniform even outside school grounds, and it makes Ada wonder if she wears it on dates too. The question shocks Fuyumi, and just as she's about to say the truth about her relationship status, Chiwa shows up and ruins everything. She attacks Fuyumi for lying about having a boyfriend, but Ada argues that Fuyumi wouldn't lie about something like that, since she's the type who actually follows school rules. Deep down, Fuyumi feels bad, but instead of coming clean, she doubles down and claims she wasn't lying about having a boyfriend, and that's when Himei shows up. Ada is shocked to see her and wonders what she's doing there, so she reveals that Masuzu sent her to learn how to say meow meow oni-chan from Fuyumi. Fuyumi takes this as a compliment and starts bragging about how guys drool to kiss her feet, and how she has more bodies than Bonnie Blue. Kaoru looks at her, stunned by the nonsense she's spewing, and sighs, realizing women are impossible to predict. After the act, Fuyumi asks Ada what he thought about her when he heard she had a boyfriend, but when Ada asks why she's asking, she panics, tells him to forget she said anything, and he says goodbye with a smile, like a house cat on a leash. Ada reports all that Fuyumi had told them at the cafe to Masuzu, but Masuzu, still hellbent on insisting Fuyumi is a lousy liar, says they must find a way to meet this Michael. Tired of Masuzu doubting him, Ada points out that if Masuzu continues to doubt Fuyumi, their beef will never end. He tries to bait her into trusting him, and all of a sudden, Masuzu becomes calm as she explains that since her whole life is a lie, she finds it hard to trust people. Ada butts in mid-confession to tell her that he doesn't believe that she has developed trust issues because her relationship with Himei and Chiwa says otherwise. Masuzu feels touched by Ida's words, so she pecks him and thanks him for his thoughtfulness. The following day, after the teacher dismisses the class, just as Ada recalls Masuzu telling him to play detective, Kaoru, alongside Fuyumi, walks in on him to set up a date with Ada for Fuyumi. Kaoru's actions catch Fuyumi off guard, so she goes crazy and smacks Kaoru several times before aggressively telling Ada that he ought to feel lucky to be graced by her presence again. At Ida's home, Chiwa, casually reading a magazine on the couch, accuses Ada of being Masuzu's little spy, and even though he is, Ada denies it before pointing out that using Fuyumi's secret to stop the society from getting shut down is blackmail. But Chiwa, uninterested in Ida's response, suddenly sits up to show Ada an ad for Love Charms in her magazine. And while she yaps about what the advertisement is all about, Ada reads out how to use love charms and the incantations to activate them. When Ada points out that the love charm is obviously trash, Chiwa insists that there's proof that it works all over school. The following day, Ada meets up with Kaoru, who urges Fuyumi to say hello to him, which she does shyly. Moments later, Kaoru shows Ada a fireworks event flyer, and while Ada is checking it out, Fuyumi cautiously asks him if he plans to go with Masuzu. Ada says no, and Fuyumi asks again if he is going with the other girls. When Ada informs her that he plans to turn them down, Fuyumi suddenly jubilates that her love charm is working. Her unusual energy pushes Ada and his chair to the floor, and when he picks himself back up, Fuyumi asks Ada who he's seeing the fireworks with. Ada reveals he doesn't intend to go because he would rather use the time to study, but Fuyumi insists he must come. All of a sudden, Ada asks Fuyumi if she will be attending with Michael, and even though the question catches her off guard, Fuyumi lies that Michael isn't around, so she's free to go with whoever. While Ada soaks in Fuyumi's lie, Kaoru shows them 3 movie tickets and proposes they check it out after school the next day. Later on, Ada reports to Masuzu, who cooks up a plan for Ada to make Fuyumi fall in love with him during the date. She cleverly adds that if Michael is really her boyfriend, they can use the cheating allegations against her and turn her into their puppet. Ada tries to argue with Masuzu, but Masuzu casually brings out his journal and reads it to the girls, ignoring Ada crashing out beside her. Apparently, Ada, who loves to write fantasies about his crushes, had written about Tanaka, the student council president. In his story, he portrays Tanaka as a girl struggling with her self-confidence. He assumes the role of a comforter and assures Tanaka that she's doing good. And of a sudden, Tanaka confesses her love for him. Ada admits he's also in love with her. His consciousness goes into an excitement overload as it abruptly barges into his fantasy bubble, where it punches the board a few times, spews some nonsense, and dashes out of the class teary-eyed, overlooking Ada wailing on the table in regret. Masuzu instructs Chiwa to pair up with Kaoru to make Ada's date a double date, while she tails them from behind to take compromising pictures of Ada and Fuyumi. The following day, Ada meets up with Fuyumi, and while he talks to her, Chiwa pops out from nowhere to tell Kaoru she wants to tag along. Whilst they are walking to the theater, Fuyumi, referencing the time Ada asked her if she wore uniforms during dates, suddenly asks Ada what he thinks about her dressing. And when Ada tells her she's cute, Fuyumi goes red and tries to drag Ada. Unable to keep up, Ada asks her to slow down. She tries to make a deal of them holding hands, but before anything can happen, Chiwa breaks them apart to excuse the weird action. Ada explains that Chiwa is his old friend, and over the phone, Masuzu tells Chiwa to stop interfering with the mission. But Fuyumi is feeling weird about Chiwa being Ida's old friend. In the theater, immediately, Masuzu orders Ida to work harder. Coincidentally, a scary scene shows up, causing Fuyumi to hold him. But Chiwa also grabs him with an unknown force. As the movie continues, Fuyumi and Chiwa boil in anger over how similar the movie plot is to their situation with Ada. Masuzu joins in on the rants, and Fuyumi suddenly feels herself get emotional as she resonates with one of the characters. After the movie, Ada tries to ask Fuyumi about her episode in the theater, but Fuyumi downplays and brushes it away. The following day at school, when Ada picks up a strange book, Fuyumi rushes to grab it, but she knocks Ada's books out of his bag in the process. Fuyumi quickly picks up a random book, and seconds after she leaves, Ada realizes she picked the wrong one. As expected, the nosy buffoon opens the book and reads out Fuyumi's darkest secrets and fantasies about a guy named Takun. Relieved to have saved herself from embarrassment, Fuyumi opens the book in her hand, only to realize that she had taken the wrong book. Meanwhile, Ada assumes that Fuyumi must enjoy poetry like him after reading a good chunk of the book. While he wonders if Michael's nickname is Takun, Fuyumi charges into the class like a mad bull, sees that he's reading her journal, and pursues him around the school to retrieve it. Ada gets to a dead end, and as he panics to open his only escape door, Fuyumi jumps on him, and they both land in a dark office. In the office, Fuyumi cries over Ada reading the fantasies she wrote about and asks him to mock her as much as he wants, but Ada doesn't. He apologizes for reading her journal and declares that he will never laugh at anybody's fantasy because he also has fantasies. He suddenly begins acting like a cringe isekai anime, cracking the embarrassed class monitor in the process. After laughing her heart out, Fuyumi leans into Ada and thanks him for making her feel better. She suddenly asks him if he did the same thing for Chiwa, and Ada asks Fuyumi how she knew about it. Fuyumi explains that the whole school was talking about it, and then leans in deeper and mentions that she wants to keep her face hidden for a while. After a short while, Fuyumi asks Ada how far he read into her book, and when Ada lies that he only read the poems, Fuyumi asks for her book back. Ada apologizes for squeezing it and offers to get her a new one. Fuyumi spends a few seconds contemplating Ida's offer before proposing that he do something else for her. At home, Chiwa asks Ada if he is watching the fireworks the next day. Ada reminds her he isn't, and Chiwa makes a fuss about it. The following day, Fuyumi shows up at Ida's house in a costume and asks him to follow her to watch the fireworks. On the street, the pair reminisces about their past. When Fuyumi spots a floodgate, she and Ida rush to check it out. Looking at the floodgate made Ada remember when he and Chiwa would catch a bucket full of crayfish in it when they were younger. After the sudden trip down memory lane, Ida and Fuyumi walk by a familiar village with fireflies floating around. As they walk further, Ida recognizes the area from his past, just as he tries to ask Fuyumi why the strange place feels so familiar. Fuyumi calls his attention to the fireworks in the sky. Ida grabs her hand and runs up the stairs to show Fuyumi the fireworks from a better spot. As they watch the beautiful display in the sky, Fuyumi explains that Ada was the one who found the spot and told her about it. She refers to him as Taken before explaining that she gave him when they were in star class. Fuyumi leans into Ida to ask if he remembers anything, and all of a sudden, a memory of Ida and Fuyumi in their young years flashes into his mind. Ada recognizes Fuyumi as an old friend, and Fuyumi explains that Kaoru had tried calling her by her pet name to jog his memory, but it didn't work. Surprise, Ida asks if Kaoru was also aware of their past, and Fuyumi tells him that he is. She confesses that when she moved during the summer break of kindergarten, she never got his address or number, but when she returned, she constantly saw him flirting with the girls. Ada tries to deny flirting with the girls, but Fuyumi, feeling jealous, points out that even though she knew him first, Chiwa was considered his old friend, and it hurt to be known as only a class monitor. Fuyumi adds that Masuzu became his girlfriend too, and her anger suddenly riles up as she asks how many girls he needs. Before Ida can defend himself, Fuyumi assures him that it doesn't matter since he now remembers her. She pulls out a ragged marriage contract they had made 10 years ago and asks him to stamp it. Ida tries to deny it, but the memory of him promising her 10 years ago floods his mind. When he brings up Michael, Fuyumi confesses that Michael was all made up. Ida scolds her for lying, and Fuyumi blames him for forgetting her and making her pretend she's not in love with him. Ida suddenly realizes that the Taken in the notebook must be him and cringes. He tells her to expose everything to Masuzu, but Fuyumi refuses, knowing fully well Masuzu will never let her live it down. She smugly adds that she is willing to dump Michael for him if he marries her. But when Ada refuses to join her deceptive plan, Fuyumi reminds him that he has a girlfriend, and he's not one to talk to either before forcing him to sign the contract. While Ada is running away from Fuyumi, he runs into Chiwa and Himei. Fuyumi watches everything and grows pissed because she has to hide while Chiwa and Himei drag Ada away. The following morning, Masuzu orders Ada to kiss her as punishment for spending the night with Fuyumi. After the kiss, Masuzu suddenly gets nervous and tries to punch him, but Ada blocks her. Later on, Fuyumi calls the group to inform them that their club is back on before boasting about being a love master, and while Chiwa protests her claims, Ada tells her he won't help her out of the Michael situation. Fuyumi assures Ada he doesn't need to, and she will eventually get him to stamp their marriage contract. The following day, Fuyumi proudly presents herself as the club's new head like she owns the building, but Chiwa isn't having it. Fuyumi claims she single-handedly rescued the club from ruin, and Chiwa fires back with insults. The two immediately fall into their usual back-and-forth bickering until Himei cuts in, surprisingly accepting Fuyumi as the club's new guide to becoming popular. Seeing Himei's interest, Fuyumi recognizes her potential, and after warming up to her a little, Fuyumi boldly declares that she'll make them pure and proper maidens. Meanwhile, the strange head pats going around the room creep Ida out. Masuzu also accepts their new coach and casually reveals that Fuyumi has a rich, handsome boyfriend. Fuyumi panics at being caught but smoothly hides it with a chain of quick lies to protect her perfect girl image. Wanting advice, Chiwa and Himei ask her how to properly confess to a boy, but Fuyumi insists the boy should confess first. Seizing the moment, Masuzu proposes that Ada ask Fuyumi out as a demonstration so the other girls can see how to respond in a real confession scenario. Flustered, Fuyumi pretends to be hard to get, even though she excitedly prepares like it's a real date. Soon after, she passionately welcomes Ada as the practice begins. Reluctantly, Ida gives a weak love confession, only to instantly give up when Fuyumi friend-zones him. She scolds him for quitting and insists girls shouldn't be won over so easily. Since Ida's still not taking it seriously, Masuzu whips out his diary to blackmail him into using his cringiest fanfic tier pickup lines. Hoping the loudmouth doesn't snitch, Ada unleashes the wind kiss barrage, and Fuyumi completely falls for it. She clings to him, announcing they're now officially a couple. The other girls stare in disbelief, feeling betrayed, until Ida reminds Fuyumi about her position in the disciplinary committee. Fuyumi immediately drops the act and declares this is how you seduce a man, though Masuzu doesn't buy it and asks Ada to try rizzing her again. He does, and Fuyumi collapses right back into her lovey-dovey mode, clinging to him. Annoyed, Chiwa breaks them apart, claiming that Fuyumi needs her permission to cling to Ida since he is her old friend. But then Fuyumi casually drops the bombshell that she is also his old friend, having been so for 10 years. Chiwa met him 9 years ago, meaning Fuyumi came first. Heartbroken, Chiwa looks to Ida for confirmation, and he apologetically affirms it, claiming he simply forgot. Himei then grabs Ada's hand and firmly announces that she met him even earlier in their past lives, where she was presumably his lover. Before Fuyumi can dismiss Himei's delusions, Masuzu shifts everyone's attention back to the topic of their upcoming summer plans. They discuss where to go, but Ada mentions he has summer classes. Fuyumi reveals his day off, and Himei suggests the beach since she's never been there. Her parents run an inn, and summer is their busiest season, so she rarely gets time off. The girls start planning their swimsuits while Chiwa quietly excuses herself and goes to the bathroom, looking mopey. Inside the bathroom, Chiwa stares at her reflection, struggling to keep up the fake smile masking her jealousy. When she steps out, she runs into Ida, who worries about her. She tries dismissing it, but Ada gently grabs her hand and tells her there's no hierarchy about which old friend came first. His insight hits home, and Chiwa opens up, asking how he figured it out. His answer brightens her mood so much that she hugs him tightly and then asks him to go swimsuit shopping with her the next day. Ada suggests she wear her old 6th grade swimsuit, and she panics, insisting she's grown since then. She tells him there's a bookstore in the mall with the reference books he wants, and after he agrees to go, she hugs him again. Ida has a coffee date with Masuzu, where he mentions swimsuit shopping with Chiwa. Masuzu doesn't mind, though Ida worries because she was upset during the fireworks incident. She confirms the mall they're visiting and mocks it as a hangout for lovesick couples. When Ada asks why she agreed to a beach trip despite not being able to swim, she admits she couldn't refuse after what Himei said. The next day, Chiwa meets Ada and tries to make their outing feel like a date, but Masuzu suddenly shows up, perfectly reenacts Chiwa's earlier conversation, and insists on joining them. Chiwa challenges her motives, prompting Masuzu to fire back with short jokes until the two argue loudly. Ida pleads for peace as Himei and Fuyumi secretly tail them, with Fuyumi melting down in jealous confusion over Ida's unfaithfulness. At the mall, Chiwa and Masuzu bombard Ida with different swimsuits, seeking his opinion but overwhelmed. He orders them to settle it with a game of rock, paper, scissors. However, the game goes off the rails when Masuzu smacks Chiwa on the first round, and they end up crossing clothes hangers like swords on the second. Fed up, Ida decides to assess both swimsuits at the same time and tells them to change. Before he can think, Himei drags him into a changing room and seductively shows off her swimsuit, but Ada stops himself from grabbing her cake. After escaping Himei's hold, he gives her swimsuit a good review, and as a reward, she tries to show him her milkers, but he flash steps out of the room before things escalate. While he waits, Chiwa and Masuzu ask to check if he's still around. Right then, Ada notices familiar shoes in front of another changing room, and Fuyumi pops out dramatically, confirming his suspicion and accusing him of cheating on her. To escape her endless lectures, Ada decides to pick a swimsuit for her, and she happily drags him off. Moments later, Chiwa, who's hoping to show off her growth in the right places, and Masuzu emerge, but Ada has vanished. Elsewhere, Fuyumi appears in a wedding dress, asking Ida to marry her. While he hopes for a normal conversation, the other girls storm in and accuse him of running off with someone else. Their outrage is cut short when Fuyumi reminds them of the school rule requiring uniforms during outings while she's clearly in a wedding dress. Not long after, Ada determines the order in which he'll spend time with the girls using the 4 seasons, leaving Fuyumi excluded. The others tease her about sending swimsuit photos to her supposed boyfriend, and she realizes she sabotaged herself. Ida later notices her sulking, and, after lightly scolding her, picks a swimsuit for her. She hugs him tightly, prompting Chiwa to accuse her of cheating and threaten to snitch, while Fuyumi sputters out excuses. Ida then checks on Masuzu and asks if she's tired, but her anti-love response makes him wonder why she even came along. She admits she has fewer memories with him than the other girls, and Ada hopes they make more, but Masuzu makes fun of their fictitious connection. That evening, the group walks home, discussing beach plans. Ida asks about funding, but Fuyumi unexpectedly blocks Masuzu's plan to use club funds, leaving their summer trip in jeopardy. Just then, Seiko arrives, and Ada greets her warmly. She compliments Chiwa's energy and asks about their club before introducing herself as Aida's aunt. She then casually asks which girl is Aida's girlfriend. Masuzu steps up, but Seiko instantly sees through it and asks Aida who he actually likes. The girls freeze when Seiko casually calls Aida and Masuzu's relationship fake, but Aida denies it immediately, insisting they're really dating. He tries hard to convince her, yet Seiko still senses something strange, though she drops it since she's starving. A little while later, Seiko gobbles the food Aida made and instantly falls asleep after. Aida explains this is normal for her and gently covers her with a jacket. Himei suggests they move so they don't disturb her, but Aida says she'll wake up in about 30 minutes anyway. Following that, he turns down Himei's request to see his room and notices Fuyumi looking around like a creep. Realizing that she's after his stamp, he tells her it's not in his room. Masuzu tries to start their meeting, but Chiwa brings up Seiko's fake accusation, and the other girls press for answers. Masuzu feigns ignorance and calls it a baseless claim, and thankfully, Aida redirects them back to the summer trip plans. Since they still need money, they brainstorm jobs. Chiwa suggests a questionable hostess gig she saw on a poster, one that apparently pays well, but Aida shuts it down instantly. Masuzu then suggests selling some of Aida's organs, but he unapologetically asks them to change the summer plans and gets booed instead. At that moment, Seiko wakes up and tells them about an opportunity where they compete in a contest. She takes out a flyer and briefs them about the publicity event her company is running for a new game. After she unveils the genre of games she makes, it intrigues Himei, but Fuyumi hopes they don't contain adult-rated content. Seiko reveals it's a game for all ages and teases the tsundere in the group. Observing the flyer, Chiwa says the contest is for girls in love, which Seiko affirms and reveals that the three of them are in love with Aida, leaving out Masuzu. Seiko hopes the three girls will enter the contest since they're short on participants. Masuzu interrupts, reminding everyone she's Aida's girlfriend, and demands to know why Seiko excluded her. Seiko simply says her intuition didn't detect love, revealing the trait she developed after creating so many lovesick characters. Since Masuzu refuses to accept the verdict, Seiko decides to test her love using her company's app, which gathered data from over 10,000 users, with the majority of them in their teens and 20s. Seiko also involves the other girls, and they agree to take the test too. Seiko asks what they'd do if their crush recommended a manga. After the app analyzes their answers, Fuyumi ranks as the most lovesick. Flustered, she stammers uncontrollably and accidentally admits her love for Aida before bolting away. Chiwa, who came in second, furiously asks why, and Seiko says the analysis put her in the friend zone. Chiwa accepts defeat, and Seiko lectures Himei on why she was third. Masuzu is last. Her answer was too perfect for someone who hasn't even been dating for 4 months. But since she's persistent, Seiko allows her to join the contest and promises to acknowledge her as Aida's girlfriend if she wins officially. Masuzu accepts, and the other girls join as well, with Aida as the prize. That night, Seiko finds Aida preparing a lunchbox for her and wonders why his parents abandoned a good lad like him, while also talking about family. After grabbing a beer, she bluntly asks if he plans to turn his life into a harem or a battlefield. She even gives him advice for both routes, and Aida says he wants neither, but Seiko presses him anyway. When he brings up Masuzu, Seiko proves she's sharper than she looks and asks what he likes about her. He lists superficial traits, but then Masuzu texts him, inviting him out. Before Aida rushes off, Seiko warns him that Masuzu is like a pretty flower with poison and thorns. Later, Aida meets Masuzu at the park and guesses that Seiko's comments got to her. He notices she's drinking something questionable for dinner and offers to cook, but she rejects the idea, saying that lovesick people use food to seduce each other. Aida worries about her health, but she snaps at him, talking like an Otome game protagonist. As they walk together, Masuzu asks about his aunt, whom Aida describes as a youngster trapped in an adult's body, always blending reality with games. Masuzu admits that Seiko crushed the confidence she had in her imitation skills and wonders why Aida looks depressed when none of this affects him negatively, but he claims he's her accomplice until she returns his diary. Masuzu accuses him of being a heart thief and vows to win the contest to make everyone acknowledge her as his girlfriend. She asks for his help, and Aida agrees. The next day, Fuyumi and Aida tell Kaoru about their trip. Aida, sulking over the chaos in his life, gets told to cheer up because he's surrounded by the school's cutest girls, and Kaoru admits all the guys are jealous. When Aida asks if Kaoru is also jealous, he affirms because the girls keep stealing his best buddy away. While browsing books, Fuyumi reminds Kaoru, who's playing Mikkel's role, the times he have to message her, but Aida suggests she drop the whole thing completely, but she rejects. Shortly after, Aida invites Kaoru to the beach trip, but he declines and rests on Aida's shoulder. Their bromance makes Fuyumi feel awkward, but Kaoru backs off so she won't get jealous. Himei texts Fuyumi and Ida worries that Fuyumi is teaching Himei something strange, but Fuyumi insists she wants to turn Himei into a normal girl. She also warns Ida that once Himei becomes normal, she won't like him, claiming to be the only one for him. Later at night, Ida receives texts from Himei, reminding him to bring important things along. He soon discovers she reads weird blogs online after she asks him to bring contraceptives, which she knows nothing about. Soon after, Chiwa pops up outside his window from the neighboring house, proudly showing off her swimsuit. She excitedly lists everything she wants to do at the beach and comments on how strange Ida and Masuzu's relationship feels, but promises to save him. Himei calls her, so she says goodnight, leaving Ida wondering if Masuzu is the only one feeling lonely. The next morning, Ida heads out with his bag and meets Chiwa. They soon join Himei and Fuyumi at the rendezvous point. Masuzu shows up moments later. The girls immediately recognize their competitors, but Masuzu simply grabs Ida's arm as the trip begins, leaving the others silently fuming. The moment they board the bus, Masuzu uses her girlfriend privileges to secure the seat beside Ida. While the other girls glare daggers at her, she quietly reminds Ida to keep acting like they're together. Ida tries his best, but the girls still think their awkward performance looks fake. After a while, they arrive at the beach house. Since it's Himei's first time seeing the ocean, Fuyumi and Chiwa dramatically open the curtains to show her the beach view. The sight leaves Himei speechless, and the group prepares for club activities. Moments later, they change into their swimsuits. Masuzu lists the activities they'll be doing as practice for the upcoming contest, and the girls agree. Chiwa reassures Himei that the water isn't scary and drags her in. The salty taste instantly revives Himei's past life delusions. While Chiwa happily splashes around, watching them, Ida gets worried, but Masuzu complains they won't gain popularity at this rate. Ida teases her about not being able to swim. Meanwhile, Fuyumi finds a heart-shaped shell and brings it to Ida, hoping they'll search for the other half together. He downplays the idea, and Fuyumi calls him a jerk before storming into the ocean. Masuzu talks about his cluelessness, but Ida notices all the attention is suddenly focused on her. He drops a towel on her head, but she asks why he's acting like a lovesick dunce when no one's watching. Still, she starts sulking when he mentions that the other girls are having fun. Later, they eat together, and Ida notices Himei isn't delusional for once as she praises the food. After the meal, Masuzu tells Ida to prepare dessert and points at the watermelon. The girls cheer him on, but the whole popularity training is stressing him out. Ida ties on a blindfold and asks for a stick, but Masuzu tells him to smash the melon with his head instead. When he starts walking, the girls shout instructions at him, warning him not to trust Masuzu. After thinking hard, he decides to trust his girlfriend. Her directions lead him straight into the wrong melons, and he ends up grabbing Masuzu's milkers. Confused by the strange softness, he instinctively squeezes again, and Masuzu hugs him tightly while the other girls explode in outrage. Later, Ida checks the scar left by the shameless tag attached to his back earlier in the bathroom, and rambles about the brand on him like a delusional shut-in nerd who needs to touch some grass. Moments later, they assemble to make dinner, but Masuzu assigns Ida another task while the girls choose their duties with a game of rock, paper, scissors. While Ida changes the chandelier's bulb, he overhears Fuyumi and Masuzu's discussion. Surprisingly, Fuyumi's intuition guesses the possible reason Masuzu is dating him, and Fuyumi demands answers from her. Thankfully, Masuzu changes the topic with her miserable onion peeling skills, and after some scolding, Fuyumi asks her to wash some rice with a warning not to use soap. Later that night, Himei and Chiwa wash the dishes while Fuyumi messages her imaginary boyfriend. Meanwhile, Masuzu and Ida plan to show solid evidence that they're dating. Masuzu remembers his win/barrage and suggests kissing as a casual greeting. Ida panics, but she claims kisses mean nothing to anti-love people like them. She gives him the choice to opt out without threatening him with his diary, but he's lost in thought. A little later, Ida plays cards with the girls but can't focus. He then remembers the arrangement he made with Masuzu where he has to kiss her goodnight. The other girls notice his nervous energy, but he brushes it off. He realizes he's walking into the battlefield route but continues anyway. He excuses himself to sleep. Masuzu waits for their arranged moment, but unexpectedly, Chiwa also says she's going to bed early. She hands them a pouch containing phone straps the girls made for the club. Chiwa explains the symbol means maiden and why she, Himei, and Fuyumi wanted to make it. Ida wonders why he was excluded, but Chiwa calls him a loudmouth, and surprisingly, the gesture makes Masuzu smile. Later, Ida apologizes for not kissing her, but Masuzu says she'd hate a kiss in that situation anyway. She admits the gift made her emotional and reminds her of her terrible nature, claiming that she can't win the contest. Masuzu accepts defeat, and Ida suggests she withdraw, but she claims forfeiting wouldn't be fair to Chiwa, whom she stole him from. Just then, Masuzu shows him the entry he made in his diary to become a doctor and heal Chiwa. It jogs Ada's memory of that declaration in the past, and Masuzu thanks him for everything. She decides to let him go after the trip, and it makes Ada feel uncomfortable. The next morning, the girls eat breakfast, but Masuzu doesn't join them. Worried, they wonder if she can still participate in the contest, and Ada asks about the time. Apparently, the place opens at 4 and starts after 30 minutes, but the contestants should arrive an hour earlier. Ada hopes she'll be ready by then, and after they leave, he brings food to her room. She refuses and asks him to leave her alone. Ida goes for a walk, but the blazing sun triggers his usual delusions. Suddenly, Mana crashes into him with her bicycle, and he accidentally grabs her cake. She calls him a molester and insults him, which unfortunately excites Ada's masochistic tendencies. After their usual back and forth, Mana demands to know how Masuzu is. Realizing she's worried, Ada explains the situation. Mana opens up about Masuzu, who is her family's jewel, always doing what their father wants, to the point it broke her inside. From Masuzu's behavior, Mana guesses she's been stringing Ida along. Ida reluctantly admits it, but claims it's not bad. Mana thanks him sincerely for liking her sister, then says only an accomplice can stay with a liar. Ida realizes what he must do and sprints toward the contest venue. Meanwhile, Seiko welcomes the crowd and hypes the event like a game show host who's had 3 too many energy drinks. As soon as Mana says only an accomplice can stay with a liar, Ida bolts straight toward the contest venue. Meanwhile, Seiko welcomes the crowd to the long-awaited event. Ida arrives as Seiko calls the first contestant, Chiwa, to the stage. Ignoring the crowd's chatter, Chiwa confidently introduces herself. When Seiko asks about who she's in love with, Chiwa describes Ada as someone she's always relied on. After pouring her heart out, she thanks him and loudly confesses her love. The crowd applauds as she runs off stage, and Seiko calls for the second contestant, Himei, but she's nowhere to be found. Ada assumes she's frozen with stage fright until she suddenly appears behind him, saying she can't do it. As he tries calming her down, Fuyumi steps on stage and scolds the wimp for trying to escape. Desperate, Himei asks Ada how to erase her fear. Using her usual past life nonsense, Ada hypes her up. Then she suddenly hugs him and confesses. She says she's changed since meeting him and wants to be his first choice, but will settle for second, even if he hates her. After all her trembling declarations, Ada hugs her back and assures her he'll never hate her. Suddenly, Ada notices the applause and sees that the attention is on them. Seiko teases him and replays Himei's confession on the big screen while the crowd cheers loudly. Seiko then invites the third contestant, but Chiwa and Fuyumi confront Ida for eloping with Himei. While the contest continues, Ida is tagged a cheater and punished. Soon after, Seiko calls out the 12th participant, Masuzu. The crowd praises her looks, though Chiwa shrugs it off as normal. Seiko asks for her introduction, but Masuzu apologizes, explaining she lost the right to compete because her boyfriend dumped her. The girls immediately demand an explanation from Ida, but he ignores them and walks to the stage. The audience murmurs, assuming Masuzu is being dramatic for attention. Ada climbs toward her and asks why an ice princess like her is acting so depressed. He reminds her she's the club's president and shows her the phone strap they made. Forcing his way through the crowd, he tells her to keep acting with him. Surprised, Masuzu asks why he's there, but the camera pans to him as he says they should restart their acting from scratch, shocking the other girls watching. Masuzu argues it won't change anything because he has real girls who love him, but Ada says he doesn't deserve their feelings. Then, standing before everyone, he declares his love for Masuzu and explains how he fell for her while walking to the stage. She doesn't fully grasp his meaning, so he adds that a terrible girl like her needs a terrible guy like him. Masuzu admits she always hated him for unreasonable reasons and hoped he'd eventually see her flaws, but meeting him changed that. Tears spill down her cheeks, and Ada asks if they're real, but even she doesn't know. Before she can respond, he pulls her close, tells her to remain his girlfriend, and kisses her passionately in front of everyone. When the contest ended, young girl who declared her love for her dad won first place, and only Chiwa from their club received an honorary mention. That night, none of the girls joined Ida for dinner. The next morning, Ida wakes to find Masuzu lying on top of him, staring at the face of the guy who fooled her. She asks if his confession was real, but Ada gives a sarcastic answer. When she sees he's serious, she begins listing her messy traits, calling herself pathetic, yet still admits she loves him. After, she buries her face in his chest and acts lovey-dovey because what they have now is real, but Ada wonders if her mind finally snapped. Seiko interrupts the moment and calls Ada outside. He tells Masuzu to trust him and leaves. Seiko reveals he's officially on the battlefield route, and he apologizes for worrying her. She explains a third, opposite route, which involves making every girl except his girlfriend hate him. Later, Ada recalls Seiko's warning and begins his mission. First, he knocks on Himei's door and calls to her using her past life identity. When she opens the door, she pulls him inside, crying from the previous day's heartbreak. She asks if he regained past life memories, and Ida invents a story where he's just villager with fake memories implanted to confuse enemies. The absurd backstory excites Himei, and despite everything he says to discourage her, she hugs him and chooses to deal with the emotional chaos later. Next, Ida visits Fuyumi, who reluctantly lets him in. He asks for the marriage form she forced on him before. She brings it, but he fails to rip it and notices her teddy bear. Fuyumi explodes, asking how he could forget Murata the bear, the best friend she introduced back in Star Class. She begins crying, but while Ada searches for a handkerchief, the paper cuts his thumb and drops blood onto the form. Fuyumi instantly brightens, declaring the bloody stamp a legally binding mark stronger than any kiss. Unable to calm her, Ada accepts his second failure. Lastly, Ada finds Chiwa on the veranda, and she's already accepted reality since he's dating someone. She says she has no right to be angry because he's working hard to become a doctor for her sake. She admits she cried last night because she felt he was drifting away. She wonders if she can grow in the right places to compete with Masuzu for his attention. Seeing her desperation, Ida steps forward to reassure her, but Chiwa leans in and steals a kiss, saying he let his guard down because he assumed she couldn't reach. She reveals she's grown taller recently, then confesses her love as usual. Masuzu suddenly appears behind them, asking to join in the fun. Chiwa wipes her tears and tells her to read the room. As they glare at each other, Ida realizes Seiko was right because he's already deep in the battlefield route. The end. That's the end of today's video. If you stayed until now, comment down below if you think you'd smash or pass Fuyumi. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want me to post Masuzu's Unplotted. But don't forget to check out the next video, it might just be your new favorite anime recap.